Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I am so pleased you are able to join me this fine evening. Do not fret yourselves as you are all in the right place. But where is that place? Well, with me, of course. Now that frivolous bard is out of the way. Yeah. I digress, and there is no time to waste. We all know what time of the year it is. It is the time where we venture forth to find the perfect gifts for our friends and loved ones. But there are no cardinal aethera in the other land, are there? How else can I relay this? I know of the perfect gifts thanks to my advanced scrying arts, from which I have learnt that the video games are the ideal gift for all, even for you. All you have to do is remember who helped procure your fabulous gifts. Still pondering on which video game is the best? I shall aid you on that endeavor by borrowing I mean using my magical hands, so you too can look through the fumes of my scrying sense. Through it, we will listen to a podcast called Ramble Shamble. I really must refill the other catalysts to get some more channel options.
Good day, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Ramble Shamble. Today, I am your host, Yoten, and I'm joined again by Mackie.
Hello.
Yeah, so we're getting close to the end of the year right now, and Mackie and I are both avid gamers. So, Mackie, before we get to the actual topic of today's conversation, can you please tell everybody where they can find us and how they can communicate with us?
Boy, can. So, guys, before we're touching on a gaming episode today. You can find us gaming on our secondary channel called Ramble Shamble. We may not post as often or as our podcast because the podcast is our main channel, but that is one media that you can, or one channel you can talk to us and maybe even play games with us. But again, guys, we post our podcast on almost every podcasting platform there is, including Apple, Spotify. YouTube is also one, although it's not really a podcasting platform, but we post there anyways because we know you guys and we want to make it as convenient as possible for you guys. We also have a Discord channel, which is the best place for you guys to talk with us, game with us, share your stuff, share your ideas, and comment about the episode, where those comments are super duper important to us. For topic ideas, for many other things. And guys, before we go into the typical way, I want to kind of suggest that you guys, if you guys want to kind of stop us from doing the same intros of where can you find us situation, then maybe you guys can help us with that and help us grow our small little channel to becoming bigger and bigger. But until then, Jotzen, what do we do with these comments that the audience shall give us?
Yes, so from the answers that you guys give us to the questions that we ask inside of the episode, or based on suggestions that the community upvotes in general, we like to choose the answers that we find to be the most appealing and the most interesting, and talk about that for a shorter little episode inside of a separate playlist called Ramble Shamble. And that's just because it's the little bits and pieces of the main episodes where we talk about something that you guys suggest. That's the best way in which you guys can interact with us, and that's why we value your input as well and your support. It's our way of saying thank you for listening. Okay, so with the obligatories done, and before we get to the main topic of the episode, which everybody can see in the title, Mackie, at the moment, what games are you playing right now and trying?
Oh, I'm playing 2 games at the moment when I'm not playing games with you or friends, and that be Shadow Overloading and as well as Evil Within 2. Two kind of Lovecraftian kind of games. Shadow Overloading is way more Lovecraftian. It is a hilarious game. Posting the first episode, which is probably past by the time this recording goes out. But hey, the game is really cool. It's a lot of fun and goofiness.
Wow, what type of games are they? Like FPS? What?
So Shadow over Loathing is much more of it uses very basic graphics, so it's very much like a stickman kind of adventure thing, and its main appeal comes from the stuff that you read in the world, because it's very stupid in a way, but it does it in a very clever and in a smart language kind of way. So right up Jotun's alley. But even within 2, I played the first one, which was really good. Even within 2 is much more of a zombie fighting game. But the scenarios that you get into that game is absolutely insane. You just kind of go, like, the art direction and ideas behind it is baffling on how broad it is. Think of SCP, but like on proper steroids. Like anything you can imagine in your mind, it comes into reality. So it really makes your mind go, whoa. And it's a horror game, so it makes it even worse, because now these things are chasing after you. I can admit that I almost pooped my pants a few times playing that game.
Wow. Okay. Now that's actually really interesting, because I've been looking for something a bit more story heavy to play.
Oh, I cannot recommend Evil Within 2 more. Shadow over Loathing is a good chilled game. So if you want like something like, hey, I'm a bit tired, I just want to play a chill game that will make me laugh, Shadow over Loathing. Yeah, I can give you that recommendation.
Thanks. Yeah, so recently I acquired Elden Ring, and so I'm
Ooh.
giving that a go. But I tend to kind of bounce off of games where I'm not really given any kind of directive or story to work off of. And I'm getting some of those vibes inside Elden Ring.
That's exactly what happened to me.
Yeah. Even though I know that a lot of the appeal is meant to be about the exploration and just the spontaneous encounters that you find within the world, as well as like Easter eggs and stuff like that, kind of in a similar way to Skyrim. I'm not getting the kind of story drive that you do in Skyrim, and it's actually a little bit of a bummer for me, because, well, like it was made, like the world and the story was made by George R. R. Martin, so I was expecting something a bit more gripping and enticing for me. But I'm not one to give up on an experience, so I'm going to give it a few more hours of gameplay. But it seems like I'm going to leave this one for when I really have a dry spell with interesting story games to play.
One of the appeals for Elden Ring is that it's also multiplayer. So who knows? Maybe I can join you in your weird adventure, because I feel what you say, like Dark Souls, it's quite aimless unless you really put effort into trying to find a goal. Like it doesn't give you a goal. It says here's your world, and like you, I feel like too like, okay, so what now? What am I actually doing? Anything?
Yeah. Yeah, so I'll definitely consider that. I tend to be a solo gamer for the most part, but you're a friend, and I like your
Oh,
company. So yeah. But anyway, another game is one that we actually have played together, and that's Valheim. And that's one I've been playing. I got into recently again, because Not a Nerd and You convinced me to get back into it after I played it to death last year. And now South Africa has this very irritating kind of energy system where, for several periods every single day, for 2 hours, we do not have any electricity coming to our homes. And so I needed to find a game that is pretty lo-fi, so that it doesn't tax my GPU too much, and so that I can actually last the 2 hour bout of load shedding. And so Valheim has been my go-to for that.
oh.
So I've been getting into that a bit more often now as well.
No,
Yeah.
I definitely want to get into Valheim, but I feel like the best time for me to get back into it is when it's like getting closer to coming out of early access. Because that's when like
Oh
all the cool
yeah.
things are in there, and then it's gonna be like, hey, this is the time to get all Vikinging and kill and pillage, even though there's nothing in that in the game.
Geez, I think you might wait a long while if you wait for that to happen, eh? And I don't understand exactly how those kinds of systems work nowadays, because they get frequent patches and updates with like a lot of content that comes into those kinds of games, but it's still in early access. and they already have such a massive player base, but it's still in early access. So I kind of understand what you mean in that regard, because you don't really know when it's going to be out and if there is a fully realized game just yet. But for me, a lot of the time, it seems like it's a bit of a pipe dream. And all the core mechanics are already in the game.
Yeah, that I agree with you, but the fact that they introduced new lands and stuff, look, I don't disagree that a game can fully update continuously, but then I feel like at a certain stage it's no longer early access. Like Don't Starve Together is a good example of that. They keep updating it no matter what, but they're not in early access anymore. But why I refrain from, say, Valheim is that I had a bad experience with 7 Days to Die, because I think that game's still considered early access, which is crazy. That game's been out for much longer than Valheim. And myself and a friend of mine, Raspberry Pi, we were playing that game and we built this really cool base and we actually really enjoyed ourselves. And there was an update and we said, okay, that's not a problem. And because of it was a bigger than needed update, our game got deleted or we couldn't access it anymore. So it's really like kind of like crap. Now all that progress, our cool base, all the items that we gathered is just poof, gone. So that's why, like in those kind of games like Valheim, it's a beautiful game to like build and craft worlds and that kind of stuff. But as soon as like, hey, there's one update that they now have to completely rechange everything, like maybe they fully update the graphics or whatever, and everyone using the older version can't experience these things because they're using the older version, so they must start the whole world all over again. I feel like flip. So it's meaning that I'll waste like plus 5 hours plus the 10 hours I put into the game just because of you guys still putting this into early access mode.
Yeah, no, I can get that.
But yeah.
But for me, it's still just the difference of a term and a title. Like whether games get frequent feature updates and content updates as a fully fledged released game doesn't really have that much of a difference between an early access game that gets the same thing. They both already have the core mechanics and they're getting updated. So I think the difference for me is probably something like, what was the scope of the development time that the developers were looking at when they initially planned the game? And do they regard it as a finished thing? Because a lot of what, I'm not entirely sure, but I think studios will have like a massive team working on a game while it's still in early access and before it's been fully released. But then once it has been fully released, then there are only like 10% of the employees still working on that game or content updates, and the studio can focus on releasing something new. I think that's the difference. Where so an early access game will still have the entire dev team working on it, but released game will only have like 10% working on it. Then again, I don't know. Yeah. Let's get to the actual topic of today's episode, which is our favorite games of the year 2022. Now, this is a bit of a unique year for me because I actually entered the ranks of hardcore gamers in as much as I have a system that can handle newer games, for which I'm extremely grateful. So now I can actually play the kind of games that Mackie has been playing for years now. Because before this, I had just like a terrible, well, not a terrible, but an entry level laptop from Intel 5th generation, which is like 7 years ago or something like that. And it was an integrated graphics card, so I could never play any heavy hitter games. And I knew like any game before like 2013, 2014 is about the limit of newness for a game that I can play. But then last year I got an RTX 3070 laptop, and so I can actually handle all the modern games. So this has been a very unique year for me in my gaming experience. And basically, I just want to talk about awesome games that I've actually been able to play this year. So I've structured the topics for today into best game, our favorite games from 2022, so that were actually released this year, and our experience with them and why we like them. And then our favorite game that we experienced for the first time this year, despite the fact that they were released in a previous year. So those are our two topics.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I'm going to let you start this off over here because I'm curious as to what you were playing. And I don't think that I know everything that you were playing this year. So what was your favorite game from 2022 and why?
So my favorite game from 2022 is quite an obvious one for me, at least. And for people who are knowing of our Ramble Shamble account, that's why I basically advertised it. And that is the game Cult of the Lamb. So that game, I'm sure if Jotun has been bothered to even watch it, that game was a real blast to play with. Look, it wasn't like perfect in any ways, but it grew on me. It was one of the few games this year that made me say, hey, I want to keep playing this. Man, can't work end soon. I want to kind of get my teeth into it already. I want to kind of like play it properly. Because the story is there, but the way you interact with your followers is just such a joy. Because you get to name your cult. So I ended up naming the cult Ramble Shamble. And I like made all my friends, so including Jotun. Jotun, you were basically the second in charge of my cult, so congratulations, you're promoted from pleb to second in charge.
Nice.
You're also one of the most loyal. And in the game, so the basis of the game is that you are a lamb who's about to be sacrificed because there are four main crowns, or bishops. But there's a secret fifth bishop. And in order to release the fifth bishop, there's a prophecy that a lamb will raise a cult and release the fifth bishop. And obviously, you are the last lamb of your species, and they want to get rid of you as soon as possible. But by doing so, they deliver you straight to the fifth bishop. And that starts your whole adventure of gaining the powers from the fifth bishop and starting your own cult. And you get to do a whole bunch of things, like mind control your people, feed them poop because they're asked to be fed poop, do a number of different things. And you get to build your colony, and you make it really self-sufficient, and it's actually really fun. So there's a lot of base building mechanics, but as well as there's rogue-like elements. You have to go into each bishop's dungeon and complete it a certain amount of times, which is basically 3 times, and then you fight the bishop of that dungeon. And they're different. Like I will say, and each bishop represents certain like sin or evil. Like the most notable bishop for me that I hate and regret him forever is the fourth bishop, where he turns some of your followers against you, and you have to fight them to the death. And I was dreading the day where I had to fight and kill Jotun, because Jotun was one of the few followers that was with me from beginning to end. He did not die, funny enough, because I gave him a necklace which prevented him from growing old. I didn't even know that's what the necklace did. I just saw that there was like this rat-shaped necklace, and I thought Jotun would wear something like this. I gave it to him, not knowing this necklace.
Thank you.
Not knowing that this necklace kept him alive and prevented him from growing old. So that was like the main way that my followers died. And funny enough, I was like regretting it. And funny enough, Jotun and Jules were both my best followers in that game. Jules even more. He was my best worshipper. He was like, your followers gain levels by how much you praise and that kind of stuff. And he was the highest level, but Jotun was like the most dedicated.
Yeah, but like we all know that we prefer the friends that are able to tell us like our faults and call us out on our shit. So
100%.
I think that I was the better friend regardless, or the better cult member. Because
true.
I would have, like, I'm loyal, but I would have told you, like, you got to stop with this, bro. Whereas he would just be like praising you.
You're right. So Jules was one praising me, but you were the more mischievous one. You were the one who would say, "Hey, Moody wants to eat poop. Go feed him poop." So I'm like, okay, I guess Yota wants me to make Moody eat poop. So you were the tricky one of the group. But that's the thing. Like, why I say that is my best game of the year is most likely that's the reason why, is that the reactions and experiences that I had with my people, and the game made me feel for it. So unlike a lot of games, like I've played a lot of different kind of games, like Destroy All Humans 2, Core Keeper, none of those games made me feel. And that's really important for me, is as soon as I feel like, hey, I feel for the characters in the game, like Metro Exodus, I fought for those characters. That's when I know this is a good game. This is a game that's really got me invested into it. But yeah,
all I heard was very somber piano music and violins in my head when you said the game made me feel. And I heard like na 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 na, like it's like a really moaning violin playing.
Well, that's the thing. If we do touch on our best game of like one game that we would recommend to anyone, I have a game that just made me feel for it. Like really, like, dang, this is the game. This is a cool ass game. But yeah, I'm sticking with Cult of the Lamb for the first question.
Nice. Okay. So my favorite game of this year, that was actually also released this year, was Guardians of the Galaxy. And I played it on Game Pass. The game was just so much fun for me. Like the 80s music that's inside of it. I added all of those tracks to my Spotify playlist. And I found that they had some really interesting mechanics in the game. Namely the huddle feature, where if for anyone who doesn't know, there's this mechanic in the game called the huddle, where you'll be in a really difficult position inside of the game, and there'll be some kind of indicator for you that you have the option to huddle, and then you press the right prompt and everything, and then you just hear in the background, whoa, whoa, and then like everybody gathers around you, and they're all like crouching in front of you as if you're on a sport team or something, and they're all like, oh geez, Star-Lord, like this isn't looking out. We're in a really bad position, and this damn raccoon won't shut up and listen to what I'm saying. And then like there'll be a little bit of an argument going on or whatever, and then you'll be like, you'll get the right prompt based on what they were saying to like encourage them to carry on and just stick it through until you finish the encounter. And then when you get out of the encounter, some awesome 80s track will be playing in the background for like a theme tune for you beating the enemies. So for example, it'll be like Star-Lord will be like, we gotta go there and we gotta get them and make this raccoon do the right thing so that Drax will finally keep quiet. And then they'll all be like, yeah, let's go do it. And then when you get out of the huddle, it'll be something like, we built this city. We built this city on rock and roll, built this city. And then you just get amped up and you want to like do something as well. So like, I just really enjoyed the game. The soundtrack just pumped me up all the time. I always came out of that game with a really, really happy experience. Yeah.
No, jeez, dude. I'm actually really jealous that you did get to play that game.
Yeah, well, it's on Game Pass, so that's not wink wink, you know? Give it a go if you're that interested. But I really enjoyed it a lot. Yeah. And I think that they really stuck to the template that the movies gave with the retro 80s music and a little bit of the aesthetics of the characters, but they also made it a bit more like the comics as well, which I also appreciated. Yeah, so that brings us to the second question. What game did you try this year that wasn't actually made this year but in a previous year, but you only got around to this year for whatever reason?
So this is a hard one.
Why that naughty, sneaky chuckle?
Because that's a hard one, because I don't have like games that I say like, oh man, this is the coolest game and I'm gonna open it for the first time, because it's one of those bad things like why you build your Steam library and stuff. There's always so many new games that are coming out again and again and again. And you kind of don't get back to those games you said, oh man, I'll definitely play this game again.
I must say I do have a bit of an advantage here because I have
You can
years that I
finally
couldn't
play.
play Awesome Days games.
100%.
Yeah.
But yes, I do have a game, something that probably not many people actually know about it. And it's a game that I hope that Jotun will bless me with playing with me in one day. And that is a game called Barony. So this game is very basic in its look and appearance. I have to say it's slightly better graphics than Minecraft, but it looks very old. It looks tired almost. That's the best way to
Retro.
go it. Yes, but the mechanics behind the game is what really brought attention to me. So Barony, I have no idea when it's been released, but it's been out for a while. I can just verify that while I chat with you guys. Barony is basically Dungeons and Dragons, but so it was released in 2015. So that shows you how old it is. But it's got such really great mechanics that makes it really interesting because you get to make your character and your class. So if you want to be a magician, you can be a magician. But the items you get in the world, you won't know what they are. You have to appraise them. So you don't have to physically look at them and appraise them. You can pick up the item, and certain items will be cursed, some items won't be cursed. But so say I choose a warlock initially. I will have some magic and some melee attack, but the creatures are not, I'll say, they don't take your crap. They can beat you up if they really want to. So you got magic, you got all kinds of things. And it's so interesting on how simple this game is, but yet this game is really advanced. And the amount of people that actually love playing this game is quite really interesting. But I can see myself, not a nerd, and Jotun pairing up where Jotun being a ninja, because you can be a ninja in this game, and effing off some way and leaving myself and not a nerd to survive on our own, himself getting killed or myself getting killed, and we basically shout at each other while laughing at the same time. But
That does sound like me.
But the game Barony is a very interesting game. I encourage pretty much anyone who's interested in first-person shooters, who, if you can play it by yourself, but if you have a friend that joins along, then that's even better. Try this game out, Barony. There is a final boss that you have to beat, but the game itself is actually quite smart because everything in the game has a purpose. Everything you can do has a reason behind it. For example, if you see a boulder trap, which can instant kill you, if you can like draw an enemy troll, you can do that. But the enemy trolls have actual mechanics behind them because they're partially blind, so you can physically sneak behind them if your sneak skill is high enough. So what I say is like Dungeons and Dragons, you have all these skills, you have bartering skills, you have magic skill, you have casting skill, you have all these different skills. And it's a very fun game. I have to say it is a roguelite. I see on the side page it's an action roguelite, and I think that describes it in quite a large amount of detail.
Okay,
yeah,
cool.
That's the one.
So having a slight advantage on Mackie over here, I did play a lot of old games this year. All that in as much as it wasn't made this year. But it was a bit difficult for me to actually choose which one was my absolute favorite.
A choice of little against a choice of many.
Yeah. And I'm not exactly sure that I do have an absolute favorite. So the one that I chose eked out a lead for me purely because of the fact that I've been wanting to play it so badly for so many years. And this is the year that I finally got the chance.
Shadow of War.
That game, no. I played Shadow of War last year, so it doesn't count.
Okay.
The one that I chose and that I played this year for the first time was The Witcher 3.
Oh, wow.
Now, yeah, I really love RPGs and I really enjoy the Witcher universe because the idea of what an universe is called it's like colliding of the spheres or whatever. It's basically where a lot of different worlds just crashed into each other or combined into each other, and that's why there are lots of different monsters and stuff inside of the Witcher universe. Because I believe that it was the elves that started there, And then after that, there was the Coalition of the Spheres, and humans and monsters and dwarves and a whole bunch of other things all were forced to live on the same world. And that forced a lot of conflict as well. For me, that is already like a really awesome premise to build inside of a world, inside of a fantasy world. And then I just knew the reputation of how amazing the graphics was inside of The Witcher 3 and how good the story was for the game as well. And that's one of the big reasons why I play video games, to like for any reason whatsoever. That's the story. Really captivating story-driven games appeal to me so much because video games are an inherently interactive medium compared to other media which are more passive, where the only way in which you can contribute to the message itself, the message inside of the medium, is by interpreting it in a different way. But in video games, you can actually change the content of the message inside of the medium. And so story-driven games appeal to me so much. And that's why The Witcher was something that was really exciting for me. So this was the first year that I actually got to embark on the Witcher story, look at all these cool side quests and get to take down some epic monsters. And that's like pure cool factor. So I was hooked from the start. Yeah.
So did you finish that game to completion?
I finished the main story, the main game about Geralt and Ciri and Yennefer, but I didn't delve into Blood and Wine and I think Hearts of Stone. I didn't go into the expansions, the DLCs, because I know that those are also massive time sinks. And
Yes.
although I really enjoyed The Witcher, there are still too many games out there that I also want to enjoy. So I can't be spending 6 months playing one single game. Like there's too much for me to try out. Like I support CD Projekt Red and I really enjoy their work, but geez, I have other aspirations as well and a life to get to.
I'm just like you, hey. I'm just like you. When a game will take me like plus 40 hours, I'm really thinking this is a project. Like at one point, I feel like this is a chore. I'm like, guys, I appreciate all the work you put in this world, and I appreciate that it can keep growing. But there has to be a limit some way. There are other things we can do on, work on. Hey, please, give me it. That's why I was inquiring, because that game is so long. I couldn't start it because I knew once I started it, it would just be too long for me. Unfortunately, like Jotun, we have a certain amount of time, and a game like Valheim is so easy to kind of get into and build a world. But you can always it's like a more casual based game where Witcher, if you don't know what you're doing, you're gonna join back and you're gonna say, see, I have a quest for this. What was I going to do again? Do I have everything sorted out?
Yeah. So with games like that, look, I do end up spending a lot of time playing games, more time than I anticipated. But that's just the type of player that I am. I like to explore. I like to see all the beautiful things that the developers made, because I want to be a developer myself. I like really appreciating the effort that they put into the project. But if I see that the main story of a game is beyond 20 or 25 hours long, then I really start to question whether it's worth it for me. But a sweet spot for me is like 15 to 20 hours long.
Yeah, agreed.
And because if it isn't a story-driven game, if it's an open world game and it tells me that in an open world game, the main story is 30 hours long, then I'm just like, geez, that's not even all the extra content inside of the open world. I don't have the time for that.
No, it's true. Especially with me editing episodes for Ramble Shamble and doing a bit more YouTube and putting a lot more focus into my exercise and exploring the UK, life comes into a factor. And like my brother sometimes tunes me, says, "Why do you always like start a game and then stop and start a new game and stop and start a new game and stop?" And like, it's because either the game doesn't, either the game is just like a gimmick kind of game and doesn't have a story behind it or something that actually makes me intrigued, or there's a new game that my friends are playing and I want to tag along. I want to experience the game with them as well. Yeah. Can I suggest a next topic for this episode? Oh, fabulous host.
Just now. But I do want to say that you do, like, I'm the type of person that I really feel sad when I finish a series or a book or a game.
Mm-hmm.
Not entirely, but I feel sad in a way because I know that there isn't more that's waiting for me.
Agreed.
And I know that it's going to be really hard for me to find something that's worthwhile in the future, because I will spend a lot of time making sure that the thing that I'm going to be spending 20 hours on in the future is something that's worthwhile to me.
Agreed.
And that just brings me to the point of what you were talking about on your brother's comments, being that you have to give yourself enough wiggle room and space to be able to admit, I'm not enjoying this right now. And although I might enjoy it in the future, I'm going to give it a skip for now, because
Agreed.
you can't fake interest, and you don't want to ruin your experience of the game or any other kind of media by forcing yourself through a lot of suffering to enjoy something that you're not vibing with at the moment.
True. No, you speak a lot of truth there.
Yeah, so I give you some kudos over there. And it's happened to me a few times where I bounced off hard from a game, but then a few months down the line, you know what, it actually started to vibe with me a bit more. So I actually really enjoyed the experience. And you have to be able to recognize when those moments in life do appear for you.
Jeez, Jotun's dropping some bombs here. Oof.
Yeah.
I'm feeling emotional from it.
Nuggets of wisdom. Yeah. So what was the topic you wanted to suggest? I will consider it because I do have an extra one myself.
Maybe it's the same one, but I when you mentioned this topic, and I just felt like, oh, this would be a good little addition if there was time, obviously. It's your choice. You are the all-powerful host of this episode, but I was going to suggest maybe game that you would suggest the other person to play.
We can do that at the very end. I have one more, one surprise question, and that is, like, considering what we just spoke about, what game did you try this year, really excited about, expecting to absolutely love it, and that you just, like, did you just bounce so hard off of, just like a total belly flop, like you didn't like it at all, and you were disappointed by it because you were looking forward to it so much, and then you tried it and you just found out that it was not worth it for you at all?
Oh no, I hate going back to these bad memories.
Face plant
on? Funny enough, Destroy Humans 2. I played a decent amount of hours on it. Enough to say yes, I have got to some point. But the game was just so boring. Look, it's one of those things where you like, it's a game that I have nostalgia for, but how the game was designed, it's glitchy and it's boring. It's just like, none of it made me laugh.
Jeez, dude, I can even hear in your voice that like you just sound a bit dead inside talking about it.
Just because that's how much I played about it. Like I said, I played this game when I was a lot younger, and I really enjoyed it. But because of how advanced games have gone nowadays, and how they advertise this game, it looked like they really made a big difference. But it's such a short-sighted kind of game. Like, I understand remastering is not just you want to remaster the graphics, but I wouldn't mind to spruce up on some of the mechanics, because why I say it's boring is that there's no challenge behind it. I was playing that game on hard, and it felt like I was playing on kid mode. I kid you not, because nothing there was dangerous to me. I hope that, okay, I'll put this on hard, I was actually going to die a couple of times. I only died when I was trying to complete an optional mission And because the optional mission was so ambiguous in how to complete it, I died because I spent too much time intentionally not trying to kill the main boss. That's how much it was a challenge. So unfortunately, it was just one of those games that I have to say do not play unless you really have that kind of nostalgia for the game. Even then, you probably won't enjoy it because it doesn't have that kind of wow factor to me. It's just like, okay. Like I say, like you fight against the KGB, and they're meant to be these like top elite fighters, or you even come across the MI6, and again, they're supposed to be these awesome spies. I can pick them up, chuck them across the entire world, pick them up, chuck them across and there's no challenge. I just feel too powerful. And it's not fun powerful because I lift up an enemy and then they're dead. I can choose how to kill them. I can crash them against the floor. I can throw them against a building, or I can just throw them away and then they despawn because they're too far away from me. So the game just felt way too easy to me. I was like not challenged enough, and I think if I was challenged, I probably would have enjoyed the game a bit more. But it was just boring. It was like I played it, and I literally felt no enthusiasm while playing it. I was just playing it because I used to love this game, and because there was nothing to it left, I was like, okay, do mission, talk, add some joke parts which were funny, but then boring. Yeah, that's my one. I'm sorry I destroyed humans.
So the game that I bounced off of the hardest was a very recent one, and that was a game called Elix, spelled Elex.
Elix, I'm gonna look this up.
And it's a game that I got on Steam, which really excited me because it looked like some games that I'd played in the past based on screenshots and gameplay uh, that I watched.
Is it Elex 2 or the first Elex?
The first one. The first one.
Okay.
It reminded me a lot of Gothic
Yeah, I see
and
that.
Kingdoms of Amalur, but when I played it, I realized that some games simply do not have expansive enough and let's call it quick enough mechanics to actually get me inside of the gameplay loop. So when I played Elix, I found that it was just clunky to navigate the environment, and combat felt clunky to me. It felt like something from the early 2000s. So despite the fact that it had a very beautiful and glistening coat of paint on it, like the graphics are okay, but the mechanics just felt so cumbersome to me. And that's it really reminded me of why people like experienced gamers will tell you that it's all about the mechanics and it doesn't really have to do with the graphics. Although I do feel that there is a limit to how far back and the degree to which of like retroness I can deal with. But geez, I bounced so hard with the mechanics inside of Elix. And it was a bummer because I really had looked forward to like a nice fantasy world or sci-fi world to go into. Yeah, it was a bummer, dude.
Yeah, yeah. THQ Nordic can either hit or miss to me.
Yeah,
They're the kind of
true.
publisher there. Like they do have some hits, but they also have some misses. Better than Bethesda.
Well, I think that's a given, just because of the fact that you're a publisher. So you don't necessarily develop the games.
Mm-mm.
People just use you as a vehicle to get the games that they've already worked on
True.
out there.
Okay.
So your question.
Games that you would recommend for the other to play. Yes. I have. I'm not sure.
That you played in 2022.
Nah, look, this can be any game. Like a game that you know that will still be relevant to 2022, I say, or 2023. Because I have this one game.
Okay.
Since you loved playing Guardians of the Galaxy, a game that I would recommend for you, which is not too pricey. Again, audience, I even recommend it to you, is Arkham Knight. Not
Played it. I played it like a month ago or 2 months ago.
And that was not your favorite game of 2022. Dude, that game was awesome.
No.
Man.
It was awesome, but I'd already played previous Arkham games, so I was already used to the mechanics, and I think just because it wasn't a completely novel experience for me, it didn't impact me that much. when I played Arkham City last year, I really enjoyed the visual style of it and the way that they made it an artistic experience. Like, for example, now, and this is something, a small little thing that I really appreciated about that game, and that's that Batman is a detective. So you expect there's some detective mechanics inside of the game. But what I didn't expect was that every single time that you pause the game, it would basically take whatever you're looking at inside of the game or your camera, and it would like slap a really interesting newspaper effect on side of what you're looking at in a way that made what you were looking at seem like a crime scene. And man, dude, that just blew my mind every single
Oh, I'm
time.
glad. I thought you were going to rip on
And
that.
I really appreciated that mechanic or that like visual quirk.
Oh,
It was really nice for me. And so that's why Arkham Knight didn't appeal to me that much or didn't have the exact same effect because it was softened by the blow of Arkham City last year. So
okay.
nominate something else.
Dang, dude, then you're going to have to go for your nomination first, and then I will, I look into another nomination, knowing your preferences and stuff.
Okay. So I have a cute little one, and I know that you enjoy looking for little indie games and experiences that people don't not usually find. You like finding your hidden gems
Mm.
among the trash heap.
Among the trash heap.
A game that I would recommend for you, based on how much you enjoyed Moonlighter and how you recommended that for me. Even though this game isn't a roguelite,
Oh, that game was
it
awesome, though.
was it's got similar combat and movement mechanics. And I found it really interesting because it's based off of Slavic folklore. And that's a game called Yaga, which is, if anybody of you knows, based off of Baba Yaga from Slavic folklore. And basically, you move around as, I believe, a blacksmith who is on some kind of a mission inside of this weird, like Russian European visual style, kind of Depro environment. And you just move around hitting things with a hammer or an axe. And I found it super fun. So I think that might be a quick little experience for you. It's not the newest game,
Oh, I like it. So I'm
but
adding to my wish list
I found
now.
it to be
Good one.
I found it to be a fun little experience. Short and sweet.
Okay. I actually have one game that I think I did recommend it to you already, and I'm not sure if you have tried it yet. It's called Outer Wild.
Oh yeah, you have, and I haven't.
So let me since I've got a bit of time, let me explain to the audience, because I would recommend this to the audience as well. This game is incredibly beautiful and incredibly well made, because again, the story is the main focus, but think of Groundhog Day. You would, in the game, you die and then you start over again, but you don't lose everything. You still have all the knowledge that you gained from your one life, but your kind of goal is to explore the universe and understand, why am I dying and coming back to life? Why is there a continuous loop? Because I'll give a little hint. The sun is exploding, so the sun in the universe is exploding, and your goal is to find out why and how to stop it, and possibly learn why you don't know why you are consistently reviving yourself. What made you special? And the music, the art style, the control, the physics, it's just all well made. It is just spectacular, because I played the game, and this is one of the few games that actually made me so scared, because I left the spaceship while in space, and because the spaceship was moving at a certain velocity, and because of relative velocity, I kept that velocity while moving through space. There's no wind resistance to slow you down, so I kept moving at a very fast pace without my spaceship, with my space suit. And I flew into one of the planets, which was like a water world planet. And there was these giant water tornadoes and crazy things happening. I was actually sweating because that's how like, whoa, this is so out of control. I don't know how to save myself. I was actually begging for the sun to explode because I was wanted to start the world. I wanted to start my life all over again. But the game is so smart and fun in a way that makes you feel like you're really part of the world. Why I say that is that you have to control how you land your spaceship. If you just rely on the autopilot to get you there and land, you'll find out quite quickly that your spaceship ends up exploding. You also can leave your spaceship without your spacesuit. You can you say, oh, I've landed, now it's time to go, and you forget to put on your spacesuit. Oh, you're gonna start suffocating, you die. So
it forces you to use your logic.
Use logic, and there's black holes, there's dark matter, there's portals, there's aliens, there's lore and history behind it. Dude, this game is beautifully done, and the music, it is beautiful. That's why I say, guys, if you've not played this game and you kind of said, I'm looking for a game that really makes me feel, like a game that really makes me say, wow, I cannot recommend this indie game enough. It is, in Jotun's word, a diamond in the trash. And pretty much anyone who, if you look,
I don't think I said that. A diamond in the rough is an idiom you're looking for.
No, I know that's the diamond in the rough, but you said finding a good indie game in the trash. I wanted to kind of tie into that.
Okay.
So, but it's one of those few indie games that was made quite a while ago, and it ended up being a artistic masterpiece. And it's a game that, if you want to explore the universe, or you have that fascination about space and future, this game has that. It has a real way of exploring the unknown and making you feel like, oh, this is something that actually exists. I got chills about just speaking about it. Makes me want to play the game again. That's how good it is.
Nice. Okay, so everyone, that brings us to the end of the episode. Please tell us, what were your favorite games that were released this year? What were your favorite games that were released in previous years and that you only got to try this year? And what games would you guys recommend for us? Yeah, we don't want to hear about your sub stories about games that you guys bounced off of, because we are genuinely cherry people. But we would like your recommendations about games to play as well. Yeah. Mackie, where can they tell us about those kinds of things? Where can they provide us with that information?
So again, guys, we have a Discord channel, which is the definite spot to find us. It's in the descriptions of all our posting of these episodes. So YouTube probably is the most obvious. And you guys are welcome to join. Again, guys, if you're unable to join, it's probably because A, you don't have a profile pic for your Discord channel, or you made a new account because you said, oh, I want to join this channel so quickly. Then you can always send me a direct message. You probably should be able to still see me, and just say, can you let me in? I'm really eager to join the team. And that's the best way to join the team. And again, guys, we will also be happy to play games. We're all busy people, but there are times that we may play certain party games and that kind of stuff, which I quite enjoy too. It breaks the ice or breaks the routine of playing a solo game. But again, guys, we really do appreciate you giving us all the high fives, all the good likes, all the 4-star ratings you can possibly give it to this channel of Ramble Shamble. But also sharing us to your other friends and family who may be interested and possibly want to share their voices as well. And we'll continually try to post on every Thursday. If we're unable to, maybe one of us is busy or a certain thing, then the best way to be notified is to join our channels or Twitter, Facebook, or Discord. Again, Discord is probably the better place to talk to us, but yeah, your comments are also important to us, where Ramble Shrapnel is a thing that Jotun is the best person to explain to it about it.
Yes, so from the answers that you guys give us, we choose our favorites, or that you guys upvote the most, and we just talk about that for a little bit instead, because we can't think of everything under the sun about a given topic. Plus, we think that you guys are also smart. You know, I don't like to think of my audience as a bunch of dumbasses. I like to think that you guys are sophisticated, cultured people. And maybe you guys sit there with like a glass of wine or something, with your fancy French food, whatever, and listen to the high culture and sophistication of our podcast. But anyway, I think that you guys have something to provide us as well, something that you guys can contribute to these episodes. So please let us know inside of the Discord or on the YouTube comments what you think what you think of the questions that we ask you. Yeah, please help us out, throw us a bone, let us know what we should talk about inside of Ramble Shamble. Thank you again for joining us here today, everybody. This was Judson and Mackie. Bye bye.
Bye bye.